Ariel, welcome back. This is the last in the series of videos explaining the positions within sun salutation, which is going to come next. This one is Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. Adho means downwards, Mukha is face, and we'll see that again in Gomukhasana, which is cow face, and Shavana, which is dog. Not to be confused with Shavasana, which is corpse pose. This is Svanasana. Subtle difference, I get them confused. Anyway, there's a few things to go over. In particular, I want to get the distance between your feet and your hands, because this is widely misconceived. You think of everybody's body is a different size and a different shape. It's meaningless to have your hands and feet 4 feet apart or 3.5 feet apart or whatever. We're going to use our own bodies to determine the distance that we should have. There's a couple of other pointers about the pelvic tilt, there's a couple of other things about the hand position, etc. So it's a fairly quick video. But first, I want to go over anterior and posterior pelvic tilt and lower body cross syndrome. See you there. Here we see 3 typical positions for the pelvis. What we are aiming for is a neutral spine, which is what we were trying to do in Tadasana. That pelvis should be in the neutral position so that there's a line between the ear, the shoulder, the center of the hips, the knees and the ankles. That's a good posture. Anterior tilt is very common. It's usually caused by general bad posture, but too much sitting for office workers and a lot of time hunched over your tablet or phone or whatever. It does lead to various problems. We're going to cover lower body cross syndrome. Posterior tilt is the opposite. It's where the front of your spine, the lower part of your spine, is too far forward. And this can cause a flat back, which is also not really good because it can tend to accentuate the upper curve and have you leaning a bit too far forward. Here we see an exaggerated posterior pelvic tilt. As you can see, it's not a good posture. There's a lot of slouching. It does lead to a flat back, a flat lower back, but you notice the upper back can tend to curve a bit more. Now the extra tension this puts on your body can actually lead to sciatica, but you also have a tendency to have your head rolling too far forward, which can cause some upper back and neck muscle issues, which can lead to headaches. This is not a good posture either. If you remember, this posterior pelvic tilt is what we were looking for in both the chaturanga and in our chair pose. On the left here you can see a neutral spine. You have a very slight S shaped in each of the 3 sections of the spine, the lumbar, thoracic and cervix. On the right you see an anterior pelvic tilt. The top of the pelvis is coming towards the front, the anterior of the body, and it's dropping down slightly, whereas the sacrum is moving towards the rear and it's rising up. That gives you the sticky out bum syndrome. You also see that it gives you a pronounced lordo curve in the lower back, in the lumbar. That's not a good posture because the vertebrae are compressed. Then you'll also see in the thoracic, you've got a more pronounced kypho curve. That's not good either because that tends to in turn lead to a pronounced lordo curve in the cervix, in the neck, which tilts the head forward. Now every inch that your head tilts forward, it adds a huge amount of weight to your atlas bones and to your cervical vertebrae. This is not a good posture. It's very common and it's normally caused by too much sitting, too much slouching, leaning forward, looking at tablets and phones. So a lot of the exercises we've already covered will help to correct this. Here you see another view of the effects of an anterior pelvic tilt. As it says, the butt sticks out, you have that excessively low arch and your belly tends to hang out. So the muscles in your butt and your belly become weak, whereas the muscles in your lower back and the front of your legs become tight. So here you see the 4 factors that go up to make what we call lower body cross syndrome. And you can see clearly that they're a cross. You have 2 opposites. You have the weak abdominal muscles and the weak gluteals, and then you have the tight lumbar and the tight hip flexors and iliopsoas. So you're starting to see the exercises that we've done so far and the exercises that we're going to do in our sun salutation are going to correct these postural imperfections, let's call them. Basically, the big problem here is that the accentuated curves in all three areas of the spine, and we really need to correct this. You can correct it in your daily life by being aware of it and trying to tilt your pelvis more towards the back and straighten your neck. And also, when you're sitting or reading or looking at your phone, is to try to keep that upright position and straighten that spine out. So there we have it, the three pelvic conditions. We're aiming for neutral, which Tadasana is teaching us. A lot of us suffer from an anterior tilt, which is very common in office workers and can lead to lower back problems. And the posterior tilt, which is just a misalignment, but can lead to flat back and some sciatic issues. Now, being aware of these issues is a huge part of working towards a fix. Check yourself, see which way you are, have someone help you. If you have an anterior tilt, be aware of it and try to tilt your pelvis posteriorly. And vice versa, if you have a posterior tilt, try to tilt the front of your pelvis towards the front. If you're aware of this condition, or indeed any bad posture, you're halfway towards solving it. Awareness of your posture, awareness of any bad habits, and general body awareness are all forms of mindfulness. We do so much automatically without thinking. Bringing awareness back to yourself and back into your body is going to allow your body to naturally make self-correction. If you're aware of your bad posture and you're aware of your body the whole time, you can't do anything else but naturally self-correct. Okay, to help us get into the correct position for Adho Mukha Svanasana, we're going to do Vajrasana. Now Vajrasana is called Thunderbolt. Vajra, it means thunderbolt basically. I don't know why it's called thunderbolt, but let's not get too hung up on that right now. Basically, legs tight together and our feet flat on the floor, and we're going to sit on our heels. Now this is an excellent meditation pose. I have an injured knee and I have to loosen it up before I go into this pose, but generally speaking it's quite comfortable. You can meditate for a reasonable amount of time. It's also supposed to be very good for your digestion, so after you've finished eating, if you want to sit and do a little bit of mindfulness or a little bit of meditation, this is a good pose. Vajrasana. We're going to use it to get into our Adho Mukha. Now, so we start in Vajrasana and then we widen our knees to around about the width of the mat. Then we're going to just drop ourselves down onto the mat. Now there's two actions here. First of all, you're going to keep your butt on your heels, and then you're going to push your lower spine away from you towards the window here. So there's that action of pulling that away. And then we're going to walk our fingers forwards. So we're going to open up the spine, we're going to stretch out the spine. There's a lot of action from our lower body to pull the spine away, and then the movement of our upper body is going to pull that apart. So we're going to create the space within our vertebrae. And this is a good exercise anyway for any back issues you may have. And it's a good old stretch to loosen you up. So we come down, our lower body is moving away from us, and we're going to tippy toe our hands forwards. And we're going to hold it there. You can put your head down. I'm going to hold for a little while and feel that back stretch. It's a good stretch. Then when you're ready, you drop your hands down. Now your hands have to be shoulder width apart. Same thing as we said in the last video. Nice wide grip on the hands and shoulder width. So if you're wide shouldered, make sure you come out far enough. Then basically we come up into almost a tabletop, but our arms are going to be ahead of our shoulders. Then we bring our knees so that they are hip width apart. Then we tuck our toes underneath onto the mat like this, and then we just raise up. Okay, and that is the distance that you want according to your body size and shape. And this is where we are. From here, we'll go into the other movements. Ideally, they're going to be flat. Naturally, there's going to be some raising. In Ashtanga, we take a step forward in traditional Hatha, our feet are together, but here we're just going to be here, and we're going to, as much as we can, brush our heels down. If we're in that way, we can lift our toes up. What I want to show you here is the extension of the side body. You see me raising my back end up towards the ceiling, and again here, raising up and then dropping down onto the heels. Last time here, just stretching that lower body away from the hands. So I've hit freeze frame here because there's a couple of things I want you to notice. You're aiming for a 90-degree angle between your legs and your upper body. Your upper body should be in a straight line as far as possible with your arms. Now there is no need for you to go any further than I am doing in this video here. You'll often see hyper flexible people, and you quite often see it in Ashtanga videos, of people who will have a greater angle in this. The shoulders will have been dropped further to the floor. Now there's no need for this, and in addition to that, it actually puts quite a strain on the shoulders. It's not particularly good for you. This straight line between your hips and your hands is just what we want to do. This is where we want to be. Notice also that my heels are not quite on the floor. What I'm doing is I'm raising up the back of my pelvis, my sacrum towards the ceiling, to give that stretch as much as I can in my calves and my hamstrings. Where my heels are is not important. I'm striving towards getting my heels on the floor, but in the short term, that's not super important. What is important here is the stretch in your legs. As you adopt that anterior pelvic tilt, you'll feel the stretch in your hamstring. And as you brush your calves down towards the floor, you'll feel an intense stretch in your soleus and gastrocnemius muscles. And as before, you experiment, you go towards the edge of your comfort, and you try to extend. This alternating the weight on each foot is called walking the dog. And what we're doing is we're experimenting with the feeling. It's quite uncomfortable to stretch the calves as deeply as this. So what we do is we shift the weight onto each leg at a time. It makes it a bit more bearable. Then once we've done it a few times, we can go back into both feet down and try to extend. This is all about pushing the boundaries and pushing our body just that little bit further each time. As you can see here, I raised up, I got myself into a comfortable position. Now I'm moving around. There are variations with this. In Ashtanga, you take a double step forward. In Hatha, you bring your feet very close together, and that really does give you a stretch on the inside of the head of the gastrocnemius. So play with this, move around a little bit, play with it, feel the stretch in different parts of your body. And again, this is your stretch, your exercise, and it's up to you what you make of it. You put as much effort in as you feel you need to, and you get out of it what you put in and what you want to get out. Just a few basic things. As I said, keep the back straight as you possibly can, brush your heels down towards the floor, feel the stretch in the hamstring and your calves, and aside from that, very much your move, your position, what you want to do with it, what you want to get out of it. So there are a couple of ways to come out of a position. We can walk forward, we can jump forward, or we can step forward. So I'll show you. Basically, in all cases, you want to lift up to orient yourself and get the blood flow away from your head a little bit. And then we can either walk forward, nice and slow, come up onto our fingertips when we need to, and from there up, or we can, in certain sequences, they'll ask you to jump forward, but you have to be very careful with this. It's only when you're ready to do this, but basically you're going to look up, bend your knees, and just gently jump forward back into your Uttanasana normally. The other way, which is probably what we're going to do in the sun salutation, will be here, which will raise up to give a bit of momentum, and we'll step through, and then we'll drop down into our lunge position. So that's it. That's our Adho Mukha Svanasana. It's worth spending a bit of time, in particular that upper body stretch to extend, the turning of the pelvis up towards the ceiling, and getting the proper stretch on your gastrocnemius. Do that walking the dog that we talked about. And it really is, you'll see now why we did those earlier stretches, because you really do need a lot of lengthening on these leg muscles. So it's worth spending a bit of time in downward dog. Bear in mind, it's not a rest position. Some yoga classes you go to, they'll tell you to kind of rest there a moment between sequences. I personally don't like that idea, because there isn't a pose in yoga that you rest. Not even Shavasana, when you're corpse pose at the end, you're not supposed to be resting, you're supposed to be mindful. And there are positions for your body. There is nowhere in yoga where you're just sitting there relaxing. That's not what it's about. And down dog is no different. This is a difficult pose. This is a difficult asana to get into and to hold. By all means, spend time there, but don't relax into it. Use it as any other asana for what it's meant to do. It's improvement, it's stretching, it's mindfulness, it's engagement of all your body. So that's it. Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. We're on to Sun Salutation next. Until then, carry on. Carry on. Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. Svanasana. That's to assassinate Shavasana. Carry on. Welcome to the last in the videos explaining the positions for Sun Salutation. Today it's Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. Carry on. Welcome to another video. This one is Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. This is the last of the ones. I got the word out, then I fucked up the rest of it. Carry on. Welcome to another video. This is another one in the series of explanations of the poses within the Sun Salutation, which is coming next. This one is Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. Adho means downward. Mukh or Mukha is face. Carry on. Welcome back. This is the last in a series of videos explaining the positions within the Sun Salutation, which is coming next. This one is Adho, Mukha, Svanasana. Downward facing dog. Adho is downwards, Mukha is face, and Shavana is dog, so downward facing dog. Not to be confused with Shavasana, which is dead dog. No, it's not, it's corpse pose.